Welcome to Knightline Extra on the award-winning Knightline Sports Network.
All right, what's good, Night Nation? This is Adam Eaton, and welcome to another Knightline Extra, found only on the Knightline Sports Network. This past week, UCF proved again that they are still one of the top programs in the country, and believe it or not, people are actually starting to pay attention to that as well. A big win over Stanford, 45-27 this week, vaults the Knights to 3-0 on the year and move them up to 15 in the AP poll. This week we are heading to Pittsburgh to take on the Panthers, an ACC rival, on the road, and it should be an interesting battle of styles. And so to give us more insight, we've got a Pitt insider coming up who will share a little bit more about what to expect from the Panthers and his outlook on the game. Spoiler alert, it's a little pessimistic for Pitt. We'll also talk to my good guy UCF Mike, who you can hear each week on the Sons of UCF. We will go over 5 things that you need to know about Pitt. So stick around for this upcoming Knightline Extra. Coming up next, Pitt insider Ed O'Brien.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline and Knightline Postgame Live. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
Island H2O Live, a new wave of water park.
Sing, slide, and share your day away at Island H2O Live. Now open in Kissimmee, located off US 192 and State Road 429 on Inspiration Boulevard.
Island H2O Live.
All right, this week the Knights are facing another tough Power 5 test, this time on the road to play the Pitt Panthers, and we're lucky enough to be joined by Ed O'Brien. He's from 24/7 Sports. You can find him at 24/7 Sports, Pitt Panthers, or you can follow him on Twitter at Ed O'Brien 247. Ed, thanks a lot for joining us tonight, and we appreciate you for taking the time.
Thanks for inviting me on. I definitely appreciate the opportunity.
Well, let's talk big picture about Pitt for a second first. So, obviously the season 1-2 record to date. Give us, I guess, after 3 games, what the themes that you've seen in this team so far have been.
Well, from an offensive standpoint, the team as a whole, they've been playing with confidence after losing, I believe, the last 3 games last season. So, this past game against Penn State, they played better than I think most people expected them to. They even had a chance towards the end of the game to even tie the game, but things didn't bounce their way. But so far throughout these past 3 games, the main thing is that the Pitt's passing game has been the most impressive part of the team so far, along with the defense, which has played pretty tough. Holding a high-powered Penn State offensive team to only 17 points last week was pretty impressive. So they played great defense. The passing game has definitely shown great improvement under new offensive coordinator Mark Whipple. And I would say the biggest issue would probably be right now the second half for Pitt. They haven't been scoring a lot of points, and that goes back to last year when they had the same problem. So some of that is lingering from the 2018 season.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. So the Knights and the Panthers faced off last year. Pitt came to Orlando, and one of the changes this offseason obviously was the new addition of offensive coordinator Mark Whipple, and kind of reading up on the team, if there's any sort of consistent theme that's kind of been permeated is kind of the running game and sort of the inconsistency there. What can you tell us about sort of the running back stable? I know there's a couple of backs that are potentially going to get some carries just based on kind of what we've seen in AJ Davis and Vincent Davis and Todd Sibley. What can you tell us kind of about the running game and so sort of if you see them maybe potentially breaking out of their slump this week?
Well, I should have mentioned that earlier too, because that's been, as you mentioned, that's been actually one of the bigger issues as well. The more or less the lack of a running game that Pitt's had over the past 3 games, which is a contrast to last season where they had 2 1,000-yard rushers. Excuse me. Now for this week, they actually moved up redshirt freshman Vincent Davis up to second on the depth chart behind AJ Davis. Todd Sibley's, currently out of the lineup now. So they're hoping to get some type of more of a spark. And I think Vincent Davis, he hits the hole a little faster. He's he's probably one of the smaller backs that Pitt has with rotation, but Coach Nardizzi saw enough spark from him the last couple of games to move him up to number 2 on a depth chart. And in a media interview he had earlier this week, Vincent Davis said, he's a fast learner, and that's been, one of the reasons why he's been able to move up the depth chart. So, they're hoping they can get, some type of help for the passing game because, you really don't expect Kenny Pickett to throw for 30, 40 times. Again, I don't think that's what Pitt really wants to do, even though, Coach Whipple likes to pass the ball. But I think they want to get more of a balance. And, hopefully for them, they're hoping that one of these backs or maybe both of the backs will break out this week because right now only A.J. Davis has over 100 yards rushing. Looks like he has 29 carries, 125 yards, and a touchdown. So Pitt definitely needs to get more out of their running game, especially this week.
You mentioned Kenny Pickett, so we saw him last season. His numbers last year were, I guess, pedestrian, maybe is the right way to put it. 12 TDs, 6 INTs. This year, it seems like he's throwing the ball a little bit more. Only 2 touchdowns, but he does have 2 interceptions. What change have you seen in him from last year to this year in terms of how he's matured as a passer and sort of how he's adapted to Mark Whipple's offensive system?
Well, it looks like Coach Whipple has allowed him to throw the football a little bit more down the field. Last season, I couldn't tell whether he was I don't want to say incapable of doing it, or it was a play calling. It looks like Coach Whipple has more or less opened up the passing tree for him. And so when Pitt's offensive line actually gives him time to throw the ball, he's been doing a good job of reading his progressions, making the right throws, and I believe he's only thrown 2 interceptions, so he's been making better decisions as well. So the theme has been if you give Kenny Pickett some time, maybe put him out on some rollout type passes as well. He throws pretty good out, rolling outside the pocket too. So, he's definitely looked better. The offensive line has been better than average, but when they give him time, Pickett has been able to produce some good numbers so far.
Seems like his two targets on the outside there are Maurice French and Taysier Mack. What can you tell us about those 2 guys? I know we saw French last year a bit in Orlando, but what can you tell us about those 2 guys on the outside?
Well, I've always thought Taysier Mack, I'll say up until the last couple of games, I thought he might have been the best receiver on Pitt's team as far as big plays go. But it looks like they've done a great job of getting the ball in Maurice French's hands, early and often. And, he is, between him and Mack, they're both the best, wide receivers on the team, best playmakers, thus far this season. So he's definitely shown that he's more than the kick returner. And he's just, getting a chance to show what he can do at the wide receiver position. And he's been big for Pitt through the last 3 games. Definitely need him this week to come out with a couple of big plays against a team like UCF and Taysier Mack too. Now, what they probably could use is another, wide receiver to step up. They have been trying to get the tight ends involved in the game as well, more so than they did last year.
On the defensive side, I know a big loss this year, and when Rashad Weaver went down, a couple names kind of jump off the page at me. So Jalen Twyman and Deslin Alexander seem to be sort of the leaders, if you will, in terms of disrupting the quarterback in the backfield. Pitt's only given up 19 points a game. So what have you seen so far on defense? Obviously, you referenced the battle with Penn State and the defensive performance in that game. What have you seen so far from a defensive standpoint that gives you some hope for a good game on Saturday?
Well, as you mentioned, Pitt they've lost 2 starters this season and the injuries within the past month or so. So in the past 3 games, the line has been pretty good, actually. It's a good way to put it, especially defensive tackle Jalen Twyman. He's been a pleasant surprise. It looks like he has 4.5 sacks so far. I know he had a game where he had 3 sacks. I think that was against Ohio. but he's been a nice surprise. Like you mentioned, Destin Alexandra, they've been able to get pressure on the quarterbacks, and so that's enabled Pitt to prove upon their defense and linebacker. The play's been solid. Paris Ford, who's the new star this year at the safety position, he's brought some, I would say, swag to the defensive backfield. Him along with DeMar Hamlin, that's a veteran, and Dane Jackson and Damari Mathis, they've been pretty solid at the corner position. So they've been playing a little bit faster, and I think it's just that cohesiveness and just playing together for the last couple of years. They each know where each other is supposed to be on the field, and they've just been gelling pretty good throughout the last 3 to 4 games. So, for Pitt's sake, you hope they're able to bring that same type of effort this week at home against UCF.
Yeah, so on the defensive side of the ball for Pitt, obviously UCF, we move fast, a lot of speed on the perimeter, guys who can make plays. How do you think Pitt matches up with sort of the speed that UCF will and the tempo that UCF will bring on offense?
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that last question?
I said, how do you think Pitt will match up with the speed and the tempo that UCF brings on offense?
I think on the outside, Pitt matches up pretty good. I think it might be an issue on the inside slot receivers. If UCF puts one of their faster guys and, Pitt safeties have to cover from 7 to 8 yards, that could cause some matchup problems. Pitt may want to impede their routes coming off the line or do something to help the safeties out, because I think that'll be a tough cover for any DB 7, 8 yards away, especially at the safety position, trying to go up against a high-powered UCF team with the receivers they have.
One of the things that you mentioned in a column you posted this week was, obviously you brought it up earlier, is Pitt's sort of inability to put up points in the second half of games this year. Can you attribute that to any particular factor and what's maybe causing them to not be able to have a same rhythm on the offensive side in the second half?
That's an interesting question. I listened to wide receiver Maurice French from Pitt talk about that in an interview yesterday. And, one of the things he mentioned is that they have to come out and be consistent for 4 quarters. And so, I'm not sure why they're not consistent as far as bringing that same energy, the same mentioned consistency, the same urgency as they would, as they have in the first half. I mean, in a way, it is puzzling. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's maybe, maybe coaching as far as maybe dialing back on some of the play calling and not being as aggressive as they were in the first half, then coming in the second half, being conservative. I thought they did that in week 2 against Ohio, a team that I thought they were, clearly better than the 20-10 score indicated, but they couldn't, put up a lot of points up against them in the second half as well. So I think they'll just have to come out with a sense of urgency and be more aggressive and, with the play calling.
All right, what can you tell us about Pat Narduzzi? So in Orlando, he's got an interesting reputation. I think last year's game was interesting. I think there were a couple of moments that rankled up the UCF fans. And this week he comes out and he has an interesting quote that's catching some eyes down here in Orlando. I'm not sure if you heard his quote as he talked about sort of the running quarterback, but I'll paraphrase quickly. But he essentially said something to the effect of, maybe Josh Heupel ran his quarterback one too many times last year, which was part of a question, I guess, or a conversation with around Mackenzie Milton, who obviously went out with a pretty horrific knee injury last year. He seems like a kind of quirky guy. Obviously, the game against Penn State, he's kind of being raked through the coals a little bit for his decision to kick the field goal. Is he just a kind of a strange, quirky kind of guy, or do you think some of these quotes are calculated on his part?
It might be a little bit of both, but I'm going to lean towards a little bit quirky. He's just I guess the best way to put it, he's just a different type of dude. Like, he wouldn't allow his players last week against Penn State to even talk with the media, and it's pretty much known that up here he doesn't really allow reporters to look at too much at practice either. So he keeps things pretty much close to the vest. And from what I've seen and heard, he has a way about him. I'll put it that way.
Gotcha.
And that's with the local media as well. So I'm not surprised he would say something like that.
Yeah, he caught a lot of flack last year too. I think he had some comments after the game, and one of the things that UCF fans, there's a couple of famous memes that roll around the internet around these times. There were some allegations last year that Pitt players were dropping to the ground to kind of slow UCF's offense down. And try to essentially stop the momentum and the tempo. Has there been any talk about that from a program standpoint? How they're looking at dealing with the speed this week, and do you put any credence to anybody who says that that's something that potentially that Pitt team would do is have somebody take a knee so they can maybe get their breath?
All right, I want to say I haven't heard anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if that actually happens. And I watched that game last season too, so I wouldn't be surprised if it actually did happen. The way things were going. What do you I guess even the Pittsburgh media, so how is UCF being viewed as an opponent for the Panthers this year? Obviously, these games were signed a few years back, and UCF's profile has changed pretty dramatically probably from the time that the game was signed. Absolutely.
How do fans, how do local media there, how are they viewing this matchup this week in terms of UCF coming to town, particularly when you come off a big game against an in-state rival like Penn State?
Well, you know what? The funny thing around here is that a loss like that loss to Penn State may have given people, I'm going to say hope that, Pitt could beat UCF this weekend, as opposed to, let's say they, got blown out by Penn State, then they would probably expect Pitt to lose to UCF, pretty handily. So the way I'm taking it is that most people are expecting Pitt to lose, but even include me in that category. But the Penn State, the way they played Penn State, I'm hoping that they give Pitt, UCF a good game. But it's going to be hard if they can't score any points. And from the looks of it, looks like UCF has a pretty good defense, or is playing pretty good defense as well. So I think most people are looking at this as a big challenge for Pitt. I don't think too many are calling for the upset, but they are calling for Pitt, to play better than they did last year, which, was probably isn't saying much, but I'm expecting them to play a little bit better at home against UCF. I'm not saying they're going to beat them because I don't believe that, but I think they should give them some type of a better game. I guess we'll see.
Yeah, that's what I kind of want to end on that note. So, I typically don't want to do predictions because I know, those are hard to do. But I'd rather ask it this way. So, if I told you Pitt was going to win this game, what is it that they need to do to win this game?
They'll need two things. They'll need to find a way to slow down UCF's offense. Looks like they have a good running and passing game, and they'll have to establish a running game of their own and try to control the clock. So I would say play lights out defense and control the clock with a running game. Hopefully it shows up this game. It hasn't really shown up the last 3 games.
And then kind of the converse question: if UCF beats Pittsburgh, that means UCF will probably have done what?
They probably will have passed for a lot of yards, run for a lot of yards, and shut down Pitt's offense for the second half. Because Pitt plays pretty decent in the first half, but they will have opened the game up in the second half. Again,
that's Ed O'Brien, 247sports.com. You can find him at 247sports, search Panthers, or you can find him on Twitter at Ed O'Brien 247. And we appreciate him for joining us on this special edition of Knightline Extra. Once again, reminder, the Knightline Sports Network is your exclusive home for many great UCF shows. That includes our flagship show, the Knightline Show with Trace and Andrew. It includes the AAC Report with Jeff Allen. And, of course, the Sons of UCF with yours truly and UCF Mike. Speaking of UCF Mike, he's going to join me coming up right after this to give you 5 things you need to know about Pittsburgh, only on Knightline Extra.
Oviedo Brewing Company is the hottest microbrewery in Central Florida. Located 7 miles from UCF at the Oviedo Mall, this 8,800 square foot brewery just opened its doors 6 months ago and has already crafted 13 unique beer flavors and counting in their tap room. The tap room contains different styles of beverages, including ciders, wines, and craft sodas. Not only do they have amazing beers, they also have a full kitchen with gourmet pizzas, wings, and tacos. Oviedo Brewing has activities for each day of the week, such as Taco Tuesdays, Trivia Wednesdays, Pizza and Pint on Thursdays, plus live music on Friday and Saturday evening. But the best is Sunday brunch with unlimited beer mimosas. Need a spot for game day? Oviedo Brewing is just the place with their large TVs to catch all the live games. You also find Oviedo Brewing at UCF tailgating sampling beers. And OBC support for the Knights doesn't stop there. If you need a spot for UCF away games, come to Oviedo Brewing Company, where the Knightline sports crew will be broadcasting live after the game. You can get all the details on their Instagram or Facebook page. Follow them at Oviedo Brewing CO. Download the Untapped app, and you can find out what beers are on tap. The food menu is also available on their website, oviedobrewingco.com.
All right, it's UCF Mike, it's Adam, and we have 5 things you need to know about Pitt, Mike. So we know Pitt a little bit. We played them last year. They came to the Bounce House. We whooped up on them. We got introduced to this Pat Narduzzi, who was annoying last season. They had that guy, number 25, Zeiss, I think his name was, who twisted Mackenzie Milton's ankle on a play. They had a bunch of guys falling over the ground last year. My favorite clip of all time is the guy falls on the goal line. And I think it's your guy, Cole Schneider, just sits there and just claps as the guy falls to the ground, while Jordan Johnson walks away like in disgust. So certainly we are familiar with Pitt, but if you've forgotten about Pitt, we are here to help you remember a few things. Mike, do you have any vivid memories of Pitt before we start?
Yeah, you just named him. The Zeiss, I wanted to strangle that guy. The dirty play that he tried to pull there on Mackenzie at the goal line. And I just remember AK breaking the first few minutes of that game, actually, were a little scary. They were driving on us, and we weren't doing much the first couple times we had the ball. And then AK finally broke a long play, and we got things rolling after that.
Well, I checked. Zeiss graduated, apparently. He's now, I think he's on the practice squad of the LA Chargers, so good luck to them. All right, well, who was in that game and is still in that game, Mike, is Pitt's quarterback. His name is Kenny Pickett. He started last season. He's the starter quarterback again this year. Last year, he started all 14 games. They were only 7-7. He only threw 12 touchdowns on 6 interceptions. This season, he's only thrown 129 passes so far through 3 games. They're 1-2 at this point. He's got 2 touchdowns and 2 INTs. Didn't have a monster game last year against us. He was 16-26, 163 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Panthers brought in a new offensive coordinator, Mark Whipple. He used to be with Pittsburgh Steelers, Miami Hurricanes, and late of the, I think he was in UMass. And he is brought in to hopefully improve their passing attack, which has not taken shape thus far. So doesn't look like Kenny Pickett is a quarterback who's primed to beat us from the pocket, at least on what we know about him over the past 2 seasons, Mike.
You say only 129 passes. That's a lot for only 3 games, no? It's like over 40 passes a game.
Well, they've also been losing a lot.
Right. But I think they are trying to make an effort to throw the ball more. Last year, their running game was a little stronger than it is this year. So this guy hasn't been that impressive.
Okay.
Kenny Pickett. We saw him last year. He didn't do much on us. Definitely should be a step down from KJ Costello, who we just handled pretty easy with Stanford. So not too scary. Thing number 2 you need to know about these guys. Their offensive weapons include this guy, Maurice French, who has 2 F's in his last name. F-F-R-E-N-C.
Both at the beginning, which is really weird. Yeah, we really did.
And Tayseer Mack. More than half of Kenny Pickett's completions have come to either French or Mack. And only one of them has been a touchdown. On the ground, they have A.J. Davis as the leading rusher. And they also give some carries to true freshman Vincent Davis and Todd Sibley. Overall, though, only averaging 14 points per game. That includes 20 that they scored on Ohio.
Yes. Yeah, they're not world beaters offensively. I think we've established that. But I think they only, obviously, I think they only scored 14 on us last year, Mike, if I have that right in my head. So we'll see if this. 45-14. Yeah, we'll see if this new offensive system can take shape. Obviously, through 3 games, it has not. They lost to Virginia, and they lost a close one to Penn State, 17-10. And they probably could have won that game, but Narduzzi pulled a Narduzzi, and I think he went for a field goal or something, and he missed it. I don't know, but certainly not the most offensive team in the world. But fact number 3, Mike, defense for Pitt. So they have not created a turnover through 3 games. Their best defensive player was a kid named Rashad Weaver. Unfortunately, he's out this year with a torn ACL. They do have 2 guys, Jalen Twyman, he has 4.5 sacks, and Desland Alexander has 2 sacks. They're giving up 19 points a game. However, Mike, teams are a perfect 9 for 9, including 6 touchdowns when they get in the red zone. I don't know if they call that break but don't bend. I don't know the converse of that. So, but 19 points a game. I have a funny feeling we'll score a little bit more than 19 points a game. Interesting fact, though, their defensive coordinator is former FAU head coach Charlie Partridge. So if you're a South Florida sports fan, that name might sound familiar to you. He's coordinating the defense for the Pitt Panthers.
That red zone defense doesn't sound too stout. So lucky for them, we score a lot of touchdowns before we even get into red zone. We score from deep now.
There's always a silver lining, Mike. There's always a silver lining.
But once we do get in there, we're going to score on them too. So we're going to put up at least 40, maybe 50 points this week. Thing number 4 you need to know about these guys. Their tight end coach is Tim Salem, who, you may remember, coached at UCF from 2004 to 2011. Had several different roles on the offensive staff, including offensive coordinator, QB coach, running back coach, wide receiver, and tight ends. Salem made news last year when he said he didn't leave the Pitt facility after a loss to Penn State because he didn't want to do chores around the house.
Fair. Fair. I can relate to that.
They also have 17 players on their roster from Florida.
I found that odd that they have that many players who go up to Pitt from Florida. Not that that's not a good school or their academics aren't good or something, but I found that odd. But what's your favorite memory of the Tim Salem era, Mike?
Well, our offensives were not really juggernauts back in those days. 2004 to 2007. The big offensive year 2004, 2011. 2007 has to be the big offensive year with Kevin Smith, but that was just hand the ball to Kevin Smith and let him go. Other than that, really the offense didn't pick up until 2012, really, when his name Charlie
Taff.
Charlie Taff came in as the offensive coordinator. So really, offense picked up after Salem left.
Yeah,
but the reason these guys had so many guys from Florida, I'm guessing, they obviously recruit down here a lot, but they play Miami every other year down here.
Sure.
And every once in a while they play Florida State, so they're in Florida a lot, I guess. They're seen down here.
All right. That's fair enough. All right, last fact that you need to know. So Pitt, like our friends in the Southwest Tampa area, they play their games in an NFL stadium. So their home field is Heinz Field, home of the Pittsburgh Steelers in the NFL. Now, obviously, the Cows have trouble filling their stadium, so what about the Panthers? Well, in 2018, they averaged 41,000 fans, although that was a little bit skewed by 60,000 that showed up for Penn State. So, Mike, with a top 20 team coming to town this week, what do you think attendance will be? Are you going to go over or under their average? They have 41,000 on average.
I think we're a draw now. I think people want to see us. I think people obviously want to see us lose.
Sure.
And I think we're going to have a good amount of UCF fans there. I'll say over the 41,000 to start the game. And then at halftime, when we're up by 4 or 5 touchdowns, it's going to look pretty empty.
Let's hope so. I mean, it sounds like they do a better job of filling their stadium than the Cows do, which is helpful. So we'll see how that bears itself out this upcoming week in Pittsburgh. I know a bunch of folks are heading up to the game, hopefully. So let's hear you loud and proud, and let the Pitt Panthers know that UCF is there and we're about to take over. All right, Night Nation, we are primed for Pitt. You know 5 new things about them, or you recall 5 things about them, and you heard from a Pitt insider. I think we got a good sense for what we are up against this week. Sounds like things are aligning for hopefully a good opportunity to steal a Power 5 win on the road, continue some of this positive momentum we've been getting from the national media. It's kind of weird when like Herb Street and Feinbaum actually like us. I don't really know what to do with that, but either way, I think Hypo's got them in the right frame of mind. They're nameless, they're faceless, and let's just go out there and go 1-0 this week. I think Narduzzi helps as always when he opens his mouth and makes some commentary that maybe ends up being bulletin board material. Last time somebody tried to give us bulletin board material, FAU found out how well that went over. So I think the kids are primed and ready to go. I can't wait. 3:30 kick. It's either on ABC or ESPN2, so make sure that you check your local listing so you get the right channel. Also, I know a lot of folks are traveling out to Pittsburgh to see the game. So hats off to those folks who are getting out there and representing in person. Thank you for following our team around and representing Knight Nation and cheering them on for those of us who can't make it out there. But I'm sure the kids and the coaches all appreciate that travel. So big thanks to the faithful who are heading out to Pittsburgh. Again, don't forget, whatever happens this week, you can find ESPN Radio 580, 9 a.m. Sunday morning. And if you turn that on, you're going to hear none other than our very own Andrew Phegley, Carson Engel, and Kyle Israel breaking down the game. That's right, post-game live, exclusively on ESPN 580. It's a really cool thing. I know everyone at the network is super excited to have a Knightline branded show on terrestrial radio. So make sure that you give those guys a listen. Let ESPN 580 know that you like the UCF content, and maybe we'll add more one day. Who knows? But call in, give me your comments, give me your questions. I know the guys are always super eager to talk about what happened in the game. So don't be shy. ESPN 580, 9 a.m. Sundays. The Knightline postgame live show comes to terrestrial radio. Big thanks to everyone who listened in this evening for this Knightline Extra. Big thanks to everyone who listens to all the shows, Knightline, AAC Report, Sons of UCF. We appreciate all the support you have out there. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, find us, interact with us, ask us questions. We'll keep doing the Knightline Extras. We'll bring insiders on. I'm going to hopefully try to get some nights on here to break down the game. So we'll see who's available this week. We couldn't quite pull something off that quickly, but stick with me. We'll hopefully get some nights on here each week to give you some insight on the game. But until then, this is Adam Eaton, Knightline Extra, Knightline Sports Network. Go Knights. Charge on.